listening to Turning Hard Times into Good Times with your host, Jay Taylor. If you have a question or comment about today's show, Jay would love to hear from you at 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You can also send an email to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com. That's questions, the number 4, Taylor@gmail.com. Now, back to our program.
Welcome to this special segment of Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor. It is Monday, April 4th, 2016. You just heard the views of Robert Justra, President and CEO of Columbus Gold, as to why he is seeking to launch a campaign by proxy to insert 5 new members onto the board of directors of Eastmain Resources. I have not yet made up my own mind with regard to which side of this contentious action I will support, so in an attempt to keep an open mind and to allow both sides to air their views so that not only myself but my subscribers and the listeners to this radio show can hear both sides, I am following up my discussion with Mr. Justra with Dr. Donald Robinson. He is the President and CEO of Eastmain Resources. Thanks for joining me, Don.
Thanks for giving us an opportunity to represent our company, Jay.
Well, absolutely. I think it's only fair that people hear both sides of the story. Your company is one that I've followed for a number of years. I really think that you have some outstanding assets there for sure. And you and I have sat down and talked, and you've gone through the numbers and what you're doing there over the years. So I really appreciate the time that you've taken with me to help me understand your story. Now, with respect to this contentious issue, however, let me just quote what Columbus Gold stated in their March 28th press release. They said, and I quote, "The concerned shareholders are dissatisfied that, after more than 21 years under the leadership of the same president and chief executive officer, Eastmain has not made sufficient progress in advancing its projects. The lack of progress is disappointing given the quality of Eastmain's assets. Management of Eastmain continues to enjoy the benefits of its entrenched position, while shareholders have not realized the true potential of their investment." End of quote. And Mr. Justra just noted that in my discussions earlier with him today, he noted that you've spent some $44 million over the past 20 years on the Clearwater deposit alone, and that you have had 7 resource calculations, but that you have not yet provided any economic studies on the deposit. And he states that your latest resource numbers actually declined despite your latest drill results. Is he wrong about those numbers, about those allegations?
Well, he's wrong about the allegations, in my opinion. We've had multiple resource studies done, yes. I think first and foremost, we are trying to protect shareholders. We are trying to maximize shareholder value through advancing this project and our project portfolio. And we are trying to accelerate the project without ending up like some of the stories that we all know about, where skipping a step or not getting it right ended up in disaster. So as I've never met anybody from this company, they've never approached us. They bought their first share position at the end of February and the first 2 weeks of March. And now they're disguising themselves as a concerned shareholder. They own 2% of the stock that they purchased in about a 2-week period. The reality, in our opinion, is that we have a very attractive project, and they need a very attractive project. So this is essentially a means of acquiring an asset and a company at cashless takeover, no premium to the shareholders, and having never set foot on the property. But boy, they can magically turn this into shareholder value. It would be my thinking that if they flipped the project for a couple of nickels profit, that would be a win, for them. It's our firm commitment and we are personally committed and invested on this project and in this company, and have done many steps that have added value to this company, such as removing unwanted royalties in a timely manner when we had that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of our business is, and it's a statement that anybody flips all the time, adding shareholder value.
Mm-hmm.
How do you add shareholder value in the exploration business? It's by discovery. And we made an addition to the project and a discovery in the project. Really, the time frame you have to consider is, when was the discovery hole drilled? Was it the first hole? Was it the last hole? Or went somewhere in between?
Mm-hmm.
And where that discovery is made is when you have a game-changing event in terms of what the project could be. Now, we've got a very attractive project with respect to grade. We have to make it big enough so that we'll move the needle for the producing companies out there. And that's exactly what we've been focused on. We've drilled 100,000 meters in a 24-month period. That's essentially half the drilling that was ever done on the project. And in that time, we had a game-changing event. And we've spoken to you about this. And that game-changing event is going from a narrow vein system
Mm-hmm.
to all of a sudden we realize we've got something that's got a strong geological control to it, where instead of it being a narrow vein, we had a replacement zone cross-cut by a vein. And all of a sudden, instead of it being 2 meters wide, they were 5 and 10 meters wide.
Mm-hmm.
And it was new innovation software that allowed us to unlock and crack the code geologically on this. And we've spoken to you about this as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that you can just waltz onto a property, line up the drills, and magically make your project to a mine. You got to go through a lot of significant steps to the way. And we are in the process of creating a financial model. But before we create that financial model, you better get it right, or you'll end up having a market cap that goes from hundreds of millions down to zero, and it won't be a mine.
Mm-hmm.
So we are of the opinion that best practices and doing it right is important. What we've also done is we've increased the bench strength of our company from a predominantly exploration group to a development group. The group that is contesting for the board don't have Northern Canadian mine builders on it. We
Mm-hmm.
do. We've got guys that I'm really excited, looking forward to working with Mike Hoffman and Claude Lemasson, because they've done it over and over again. Both of them worked with Goldcorp. Both of them have worked at Red Lake. Both of them know what these things look like and how you move them along.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I would put, where our strengths lie.
Sure.
We have built we've got established 2 gold belts. We've got 2 projects that have the ability to move the needle. We also formed a relationship not with just Goldcorp, but with BHP, with Billiton, with Falconbridge, with Miranda, with Soquem, with Cambior. Would all those companies do business with us if, we didn't know what we're doing? This relationship that we set out with Goldcorp was triggered back in 2003 when Rob McEwen was at the helm, and it's still ongoing. And we ended up creating a joint venture. We optioned a property south of the Eleanor discovery.
Mm-hmm.
We did our classic systematic exploration and identified a geochem anomaly that was more than 10 kilometers long, and identified it was right on the boundary. I approached Andre Gaumont back in 2006 and said, Andre, would you be interested in letting us option a couple of claims on your boundary? And Andre replied exactly as I would. Said, not a chance. However, once Goldcorp made the acquisition, we presented the data to Goldcorp, And Goldcorp was saying, this looks like a good idea. We ended up getting a third of the mine property as part of a new joint venture. We've made a small discovery on a zone there, and we have 6 kilometers of real estate north of our zone that has never had any work done. Well, it's got challenges to it because there's 30 meters of overburden. The deposit doesn't have a geophysical signature to it, and you've got no rocks to see for it. So often in mining camps, you get cycles within these camps, and it's a discovery cycle. Is that all of a sudden our friends over at Sirius have made another discovery which is parallel to the one that's on our property.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Lo and behold, it comes right onto our property as well. It's what really gets you excited about that kind of a project, and the same thing gets us excited about Clearwater, is that all of a sudden they hit mine grade, mine thicknesses in the mine rocks. And so they don't know the orientation. They don't know the detail about it, but lo and behold, it's another clue in terms of cracking the code of how you figure out these ore deposits. They don't just fall in your lap.
No, that's for sure.
So, this all of a sudden, we've seen it in many camps, is that camps go through where there's a rush, there's a lot of activity, it goes dead. All of a sudden something new comes up, there's a rush, a lot of activity, maybe you find the next mine, maybe you don't. But that's part of the business. Our project work over at Clearwater is we need to find more open pit material, because that's really the moneymaker, like we've spoken before, is that is the first driver. We've identified a new ore type that possibly could be mined from underground ramp access as the first step. You need to make them bigger. But what was the game changer is all of a sudden we started hitting some grades that were really quite good, that may support a future operation if you can find enough of them. So you can do all of the resource estimates in the world, you still have to make a project that's big enough, and you don't want to force a financial model that a project that isn't a project at the end of the day.
Sure, I understand. I understand all that, Don. You have a lot of very attractive properties. I mean, your flagship there, that you're talking about, and also the joint venture that you have there with Goldcorp and Azimuth, I think it is the other company.
Yep.
And I think that is very exciting, and perhaps that's one of the things that's attracted the Columbus Gold folks as well, just realizing the excitement of that whole camp there. But that's really the reason. I mean, I've really always liked your properties so much. But in talking to Mr. Justra, he suggests that you could add shareholder value by working with some of the major companies that have expressed an interest in arrangements with Eastmain, but that you've not been interested, and that you basically turned them away.
So that I didn't turn away Falconbridge or Barrick or Cambior or Goldcorp or Noranda or Soquim. So I don't know where this is coming from. It's our fiduciary duty to make sure that we identify and act on every business opportunity that we can get our hands on. But we're not going to act on opportunities of a group that doesn't have the financial or the technical wherewithal to tackle it.
Sure. Well,
so we have not done business with junior companies that on the flagship project, because it's a very attractive project that we're wanting to maximize value out of it. And it is our duty to make sure that these companies are aware of what we're doing, and we have. So that's our job.
All right, Don, I have to ask you about another allegation, just for you to respond to it, because it will be in the public domain. But Mr. Justra is suggesting he uses the word entrenched management, And he notes that over the last 20 years or so that you and your wife, I believe, who is working with you in a professional capacity, have taken down some $5.3 million, he says, and that over the last couple of years...
Numbers is that we are paid through guidance from the compensation committee of the board, which takes a look at our peer group and decides, what your appropriate package is. If you compare our salaries to the guys at Columbus Gold, I'll switch with them any day of the week. Look, here's the commitment. I've personally purchased back every year almost of stock into this company through private placements on the markets, more than $1.5 million worth. When we first, as the founder of the company, we took 0 shares for free. We bought our position from day one to square one, and my position is larger than the dissident group combined. My wife, Kathy, has done exactly the same thing. So we've put our life's work into this. We've worked our butts off, and we've reinvested the money back into the business. So to try and slam us that it's, your wife is working for you, she is a professional.
Yes.
She's worked in the industry for 30 years. She's worked on 2 continents like I have. She's an expert in ore deposits geology. That's what adds shareholder value.
All right.
I apologize for getting too defensive, but, are these concerned shareholders acting on behalf of our shareholders? I think not. Having never set foot on the property, have been shareholders since the last day of February, and now they're a concerned shareholder to try and represent our company.
Well, fair enough, and I know you've worked hard. You've kept at it for many years, and other people have noticed your diligence and your persistence and hard work. So it's certainly something that a lot of people have taken note of, and you certainly do have a lot of different properties. Might there not be some value added, though, in having some people come along, maybe enacting a bit as a project generator, where you might have some of your lesser projects?
And that's certainly part of our plan. And every year we try and at least see if we can get one joint venture going. Last year we got Darnley Bay in here to drill our nickel targets. The year before we got Honey Badger to drill another project target. That's clearly part of our mandate. As you know, when the market is in the trough, the only projects of interest are the advanced projects, and even those, are slim pickings.
Right.
And we are certainly, it's part of our business strategy. We put it in our presentations over and over, is that the strategy is definitely to consider any shareholder value building event with producing companies. That's the whole objective of our business. The fundamental underlying issue is that you must make these things big enough to make them move the needle for the producing companies. And we've got a lot of things going our way. The jurisdiction is the best. You've got mine-building infrastructure in terms of power and roads to it. You've got the top of the deposit that looks like it might be extracted by an open pit. There's still lots of boxes still to tick on a technical basis, but there's lots of stuff that looks attractive to it. But you still have to make it bigger, and you can still see if you can make another discovery on the property in order to really turn the corner to make this thing an operating mine.
How large do you think it needs to be to attract a major?
Well, the Goldcorp new president said, they're looking for 5 million ounce gold deposits that really would move the needle. The problem is there's not very many of them, and most of them, they're either very low grade with a very big price tag to build, and so they're now off the radar screen for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be multi-million ounce deposits that, it's not going to be a backbreaker these days in terms of being able to build it.
All right. Well, you certainly do have with the Euclid deposit there. You have an exceptionally high grade open pittable. It's seemingly an open pittable deposit, at least with that potential, with I think close to 4 grams. I think, right?
Yes, and this is the key. That this is one of the most important drivers, is ultimately to determine, what will the mineable grade be. That's going to be a driver. But we also know that the measured grade, when we've doubled up the drilling on it, was 7 grams.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's spectacular. But it's got to be bigger,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing.
All
So
right.
our game plan would be. And this is one of the opportunities that's available right now, is that drilling costs are lower than we've seen in decades.
Mm-hmm.
So that you've got a very good drilling cost. You've got the targets ready to expand.
Mm-hmm.
So we would, we're proposing 35 to 50,000 meters of drilling to continue to make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And we've identified open pit targets outside the footprint of the deposit as well.
All right. Well, I understand you'll be sending out a circular to your shareholders in the near future for the special meeting that's coming up at the end of the month, I believe.
That's correct.
And you'll be sending circulars out very shortly to your shareholders?
That's correct.
All right. So, and people can keep up, I guess, if they can keep up with this story, certainly on your website, I presume.
Absolutely. And, they can call me directly.
All right.
Or email me directly, robinson@eastmain.com.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Don, for being with me and explaining your side of this issue. Greatly appreciated, and all the best to you.
Jay, thanks a lot for your time.